Well, my friends, welcome back to Spot On with Link Lauren, a show where we're going to break down the calamities of Hollywood, the circus of Washington, D.C., and everything in between. I'm tired. I'm hungry, I haven't slept, but we are here trying to decipher all the breaking news going on. I have to give a shout out to my producer, my team, because we have a jam-packed show. The ICE riots are still going in Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, New York. They've spread across the country. Gavin Newsom, he's spiraling. Eva Longoria, the actress, she's spiraling. Simone Biles, she's also spiraling. The theme for this episode is basically everyone is spiraling, and we're here trying to make sense of all of it, running on 3 hours of sleep. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Well, we have to start by talking about someone I haven't thought of in years, and that is the actress Eva Longoria. You might know her from the show Desperate Housewives. It was on from about 2004 to 2012. The show was great, okay? Desperate Housewives was incredible. It was on ABC. It was written and directed and created by Mark Cherry. You had Felicity Huffman. You had all of these big stars, Marsha Cross, the redhead. Desperate Housewives was great. But someone who's not so great right now is Eva Longoria, because she decided to post a cringe, bizarre, out-of-touch video from her mansion in Spain decreeing the protest in Los Angeles and the ICE raids. Let's take a look.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to get on here and finally compose myself to do a message because of everything that's happening with the mass deportations. Every time I try to record a message, I just start crying, and then I don't want it to be about me and my emotions about it, but it's just so inhumane, hard to watch. It's hard to witness from afar. I can't imagine what it's like to be in Los Angeles right now. I can't believe it's happening in Austin, Texas. I can't believe it's happening all over the country. And the comments and people's reactions to it is really so surprising to me, because it is un-American. We all can agree nobody wants criminals in our country. Nobody wants rapists. Nobody wants drug dealers. Nobody wants bad actors in our country. That's not what's happening.
Eva Longoria posted that video from her mansion in Spain. She is so overcome because of the ICE raids in Los Angeles. Mind you, she fled the country because she's worth about $80 million and she's living in a mansion in Spain. And she has the audacity to tell us it is un-American to deport criminals. I'm sorry. It is not un-American, and she acts like they're going and sweeping and picking up 2-year-olds. No, we are deporting violent criminals like Kilmar Abrego Garcia and others. That is what we are doing. So she is over in her mansion in Spain. Eva Longoria wants to tell us how to live our lives. She's also acting like she's the savior of the Mexican immigrants. She reminds me a lot of Selena Gomez in her video from a few months ago, where she was crying and saying, "These are my people. All of my people are getting attacked." We all remember the video of Selena Gomez. We will spare you. We won't play it for you again. We won't make you go through that. But Eva Longoria, she is in her mansion in Spain. She's worth $80 million, and she is telling people in Los Angeles, it's fine. Let the illegal migrants just live and run amok. Let them do what they want to do. Why aren't you calling out Gavin Newsom for failing to protect California, to protect Los Angeles? Why aren't you calling out Karen Bass? And Eva Longoria, much like Selena Gomez, she did not even learn Spanish until 2009. Okay, so Eva Longoria is acting like she is the queen of the Mexican Americans. She did not even learn Spanish till 2009, when she was a very famous television star. That's who Eva Longoria is. She's also from Corpus Christi, Texas. She wants us to think she just came across the border and immigrated to the United States and she knows how to do it all. No. No. Much like Selena, who I believe is from Garland or Grand Prairie, Texas, close to my hometown of Dallas, they are full of crap. So Eva Longoria, you look ridiculous, you look out of touch, but this seems to be a common theme in the Eva Longoria group text, because someone else who is best friends with Eva Longoria is none other than Lauren Sanchez, Jeff Bezos' fiance, his soon-to-be wife here in a few weeks. So Eva Longoria is best friends with Lauren Sanchez. She rolls with a rich crew. She rolls with such a rich crew, but then she wants to tell us how to live our lives. That's who Eva Longoria is. She's over in her mansion in Spain, counting $80 million worth of cash, telling us we should be fine with illegal migrants running amok on our streets. But Eva Longoria, she's best friends with Lauren Sanchez, Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry. If you recall, they were all at that over-the-top bachelorette party in Paris. Now, to be friends with these people, as I mentioned before a few episodes ago, you also have to be rich. Because to go to a bachelorette party in Paris and then fly home and then fly back to Venice for the wedding, you have to be rich. Okay? But Kim Kardashian, she also put out a statement this morning calling out the ICE raids, basically saying it's un-American, the same talking points as Eva Longoria. You have Lauren Sanchez, she's doing the same thing, Katy Perry. All of these women now who are rich, who are either rich on their own because of their own success, and we'll give it to them. Kim Kardashian is worth billions and billions of dollars. So for all the people out there, you too could film a sex tape and build an empire if you have a momager like Kris Jenner, because the devil works hard, but Kris Jenner works harder. But Lauren Sanchez, Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry, Eva Longoria, these are the last people I want to hear from when it comes to the immigration crisis here in the United States. And when we look at the polling overwhelmingly shows President Trump is on the right side of history. There are people who don't even love President Trump, did not vote for the man, but they are happy that we are getting illegal migrants out of this country. And we actually have some polling. We have some polling on the migrant crisis and where President Trump stands, where the Republican Party stands. This is actually from CNN. We have a clip. Let's take a look.
Immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
I have talked about this for years, and I'm happy we have the data. We have Harry Inton on CNN showing us, so maybe the CNN viewers will believe this. Maybe the liberals who watch MSNBC will start to believe us. Immigrants who came to the United States, who went through the process the right way. Because guess what? We are a country of immigrants, but we're also a country of law. So if you want to come here, you have to go through the process. And those folks, they're the ones who are most upset that there are people the last 4 years who ran across the border. They are using resources in states like California that homeless people would like, Americans who actually pay their taxes would love to have those resources. There are folks across the country, they expect us to pay for their transgender surgery operations. Why should we be paying for illegal migrants to get transgender operations and procedures in the United States of America when we have veterans sleeping on the street? Okay, can we take care of our own people for once, right? It doesn't make us xenophobic. It doesn't make us racist. It doesn't make us closed-minded. All we want is a few years to get back on track and to take care of the American people who have been sidelined and left behind, the forgotten men and women of this country that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the Democratic elites did not want to speak to the last 4 years. When they opened the border, they deliberately opened the border and let millions of illegal migrants into the country. Kamala Harris, she was put in charge of the border. In January of 2021, Kamala was made the border czar. I don't know if Biden was aware of that because we know his brains were mashed potatoes, but he put Kamala Harris in charge of the border. She went down to the border for about 12 minutes during her 107-day campaign. That's who Kamala Harris is. And I believe she had a $65,000 necklace on. So she put on her best fancy outfit. She went down to the border. She tried to look rough and tumble for about 12 minutes. That's who Kamala Harris is. That's who the Democrat Party is. And we want to take care of our own people. So for Eva Longoria and all of these rich celebrities, you say, oh, this isn't fair to the migrants, to the immigrants. Well, guess what? The Mexican Americans who are here in the country right now are the ones who want secure immigration. They want an immigration system that works. The people who came to this country, went through the process, did it the right way. They are the ones who are most upset. And you look at cities like New York City, Eric Adams, right? The last few years, he was putting illegal migrants up in hotels with cash cards, food, prepaid cell phones. They were getting shuttled to doctor's appointments. And like I said, Americans were out on the street. They had lost their jobs during COVID because of all the businesses that were shut down, the small businesses in New York City. But migrants who came in under Biden, they could just get bused to New York, put up in a hotel and taken care of. And that is why there's such a backlash and people are upset. And that's why when we see this polling, President Trump overwhelmingly is on the right side of history on this one. Back in January, I believe 60% of Americans in a New York Times poll, they wanted to deport criminals as well. They want mass deportations. 60% of Americans support mass deportations. It's hard to get 60% of Americans to agree on almost anything. Now, we have to talk about none other than Gavin Newsom. Because speaking of spiraling, Eva Longoria is spiraling, Gavin Newsom, in the last 24 hours, Gavin Newsom has basically imploded his entire career, all of his presidential political aspirations. What we are watching with Gavin Newsom, and I don't say this lighthearted, I don't say this as a joke, we're watching a man unravel. We are watching a man crack and come apart and come unglued and become unhinged. That is what is happening with Gavin Newsom. We've seen it with our own two eyes, our own two ears. Gavin Newsom is incapable of making executive decisions. He's incapable of it. This, to me, is an executive functioning psychological issue. When you have someone in a position of power who can't get their story straight, who can't make decisions in a crisis, that's a big issue. That's very concerning for me. And Gavin Newsom, of course, has aspirations of being president of all 50 states. He can't take care of his own state. He's running a deficit that's tens of billions of dollars. Look at the homeless crisis. Look at the fires. Look at the fire hydrants that did not have water in them. And they knew they were going to have wildfires. That's who Gavin Newsom is. And so we're watching a man who, he's not sleeping either. He's sweating bullets. He can't decide if it's President Trump's fault or if it's his fault or if he wants President Trump's help or if he's going to sue President Trump. Gavin Newsom doesn't know his ass from his elbow right now. That is who Gavin Newsom is. And so let's read you what has happened with Gavin Newsom the last 12 hours. Okay. So last night, Gavin Newsom, this was Tuesday night, he was going to do an address to the nation. He wanted to do a presidential address to the nation because I'm Gavin Newsom and I'm gearing up to run in about 2027, okay? He wants to run for president. We see it coming in just a few years. He does this address to the nation. Much like California and his policies, the address to the nation was an utter calamity, okay? Gavin Newsom, you are an utter calamity. You might just be utter calamity of the week, Gavin Newsom. You might be utter calamity of the year, of our lives. So we actually have a clip from his address to the nation. Let's take a look.
Okay, we are working on the audio. Not sure if that's on the governor's end, but we're working to get that production up and running for you so you can listen in. We certainly will have excerpts of what the governor has said, but we're efforting to get the audio working so we can hear Governor Newsom's speech.
Gavin Newsom, you need to stop getting on camera. You need to stop tweeting. You need to start doing all of this social media posting you're doing and go actually take care of your people. President Trump doesn't want to come in and deploy the National Guard. He has bigger fish to fry. You should be able to take care of your own state. But Gavin Newsom, every accusation is an admission, right, from the left. That is who Gavin Newsom is. He's saying Donald Trump wants to do this for political points. President Trump is doing this because he wants to create chaos in the streets. I think Gavin Newsom and the left, they're the ones who want to create chaos in the streets. And then Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, after days and days and days of saying these are peaceful protests, she finally calls a curfew for downtown Los Angeles. She called a curfew from about 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So if these were overwhelmingly peaceful protests, how come you need a curfew? Clearly, you guys are in over your heads. And Gavin Newsom, one thing you have to remember, this guy is a snake oil salesman. He is a liar. He is a grifter. He is part of the political Democratic elite class. That is who he is. That is who Gavin Newsom is. He went out there and said, Donald Trump never called me. Trump never called me. There was no voicemail. But guess what President Trump did? He dropped the receipt. So he called John Roberts over at Fox News, and here's what he had to say. The first call was not picked up. Second call, Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control. More than anything else, this shows what a liar he is. He said, I never called. Well, here is the evidence. So then he dropped the screenshots of the call with Gavin Newsom. So I don't know why Gavin Newsom is lying. I think maybe Gavin Newsom is drinking. He can't get his story straight. Clearly, there's something wrong with Gavin Newsom, and we're watching this man crack and unravel and come apart in real time. And it's actually really concerning. It's really concerning to see someone who is governor of a massive state like California with a massive economy and massive issues not able to get it done. You have to be able to get it done. But the left, watching them try to get anything done, any basic task, it's like watching a dog try to walk on its hind legs. That is who Gavin Newsom is. Gavin Newsom is that dog trying to walk on its hind legs, and he can't even walk in a straight line. That is who Gavin Newsom is. And we have to talk about Gavin Newsom's wife. So Gavin Newsom's wife, Jennifer Sybil Newsom. I did a video on this. It ended up going viral. I didn't expect it to hit in the way it did. If you haven't seen it, it's on my social media. But Gavin Newsom's wife, in the midst of the riots and the chaos, she decides she's going to go out to a luxury shopping center in Beverly Hills. And according to the Daily Mail, she was there picking up some products. She had a handbag that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. She had a full team of security. You know who would love security? The people whose cars are being lit on fire, the people who have illegal migrant criminals moving into their neighborhoods. That is who would like security. But Gavin Newsom's wife, she's out shopping. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the article right now, okay? So according to the Daily Mail, this is all according to their reporting, Jennifer, who's 50 years old, she was spotted at One Beverly Hills, a luxurious complex of wellness centers and spas in the city's most exclusive zip code. She was dressed the part in a pair of $500 Common Project sneakers and a $2,500 Goyard tote bag, her bodyguard trailing behind her as she offered a coy smile. She seemed upbeat and calm. You know who isn't upbeat and calm? The people whose cars are being blown up. Okay, you know who's not calm? The people trying to get to work and the freeways being overtaken by these migrants who want to wave Mexican flags, but apparently they don't like Mexico enough to go home. So they love Mexico enough to wave the flag. They can't get their story straight either. So I'm glad Gavin Newsom's wife is out shopping. The optics of this are terrible, but it's the rules for thee, not for me. And I also have to point something out about Gavin Newsom. When you reach that level in Democratic politics, you are answering to somebody else, right? There are folks pulling your puppet strings. There are donors who are telling you what to do and how to do it. So Gavin Newsom, he wants this chaos to continue. There are guys and shadowy figures behind the scenes, mark my words, who want this chaos and disruption across the country this summer. They want there to be this chaos. So all of us, I guess our summers are interrupted to try and make President Trump look bad. They want to create almost the Civil War type of mentality this summer in Atlanta and Dallas and New York and Los Angeles, and just to have it overtake the news. That's clearly what the plan is here. And I had someone send me a screenshot earlier today of Gavin Newsom and all the money he's received from the Soros Management Fund, right? And we have tons of pictures of Gavin Newsom hanging out with Alex Soros, George Soros' son. And if you remember, Joe Biden gave George Soros, I believe, a Medal of Freedom. He gave him a Medal of Freedom. And then George Soros didn't even show up to pick up the award. His son, Alex, went. So Alex Soros is very close to Gavin Newsom. There are folks Gavin Newsom is working for, and it's not his constituents in California, in my opinion, because anybody worth their salt with some gumption would have shut this down. You wouldn't have needed President Trump to come in with the National Guard. You would have been able to shut this down and to take care of it yourself. But Gavin Newsom, they want this chaos. They want all of this to unfold. He wants to see cars burning in the streets so he can turn around and say, that is President Trump. I'm going to be the leader of the opposition. And I think that's what we're seeing. With Gavin Newsom's horrific, calamitous address to the nation, he wants to be the anti-Trump resistance. And I think he's going to set himself up that way in 2028. But he should go and look at the polling, because the polling shows an overwhelming majority of Americans support President Trump on the top line issues, right? They support President Trump on mass deportations, getting criminals out of the country. Gavin Newsom, just this morning, he is still trying to keep men and women's sports. Gavin Newsom wants men and women's sports. Clearly, he hates women. That's an 80-20 issue, right? 80-20 issue. So Gavin Newsom, if he's going to be the leader of the resistance, good luck, because your policies are so unpopular. If I were you, Gavin Newsom, I'd go back to the drawing board. I'd put water in my fire hydrants. I would make sure all of these criminals are off the streets. I would work with President Trump on the deportations, because Obama was the deporter in chief. You try and make it seem like Republicans invented deportations. I would go take care of that. I would go take care of that, Gavin Newsom, because if you ever think you want to come near the Oval Office in the White House, good freaking luck to you. This episode is brought to you by Masa Chips. Did you know that chips and fries used to be cooked in tallow up until the 1990s, when big corporations switched to cheap, processed seed oils? But today, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories. And recent studies have linked seed oils to metabolic health issues and inflammation in the body. Masa decided to do something about it. They created a tasty and delicious tortilla chip with just 3 ingredients and no seed oils. Just organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. Masa is crunchier, tastier, and sturdier than other chips. They don't break in your guacamole. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic, with no crash, bloat, or gross sluggish feeling afterwards. And an added bonus, the beef tallow makes the chips much more satiating, so you won't find yourself uncontrollably binging and still feeling hungry afterwards. Masa Chips is beloved by tens of thousands of customers and has been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Ready to give Masa a try? Go to masachips.com/link and use the code LINK for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/link, code LINK for 25% off your first order. Someone else who is spiraling and tanking their career is none other than Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast. We loved her. I believe she's the most decorated gymnast on earth. Don't hold me to it. Sports, they're not my strong suit, not my forte. But Simone Biles, as we spoke about in the last episode, she decided to come out and support men and women's sports, basically. She said, Riley Gaines, go pick on someone your own size, which ironically would be a man, even though Simone Biles was insecure about her own body, according to People magazine and reporting that we found. So Simone Biles, she's a hypocrite. She wanted men and women's sports, and the backlash was swift. Okay, it was Taylor Swift backlash, Simone Biles. I have never seen some Olympic athlete tarnish their legacy so quickly, but that's who Simone Biles is. And it's how the woke mind virus will just eat you up. And so we have some quotes here. Simone Biles decided to issue a public apology. She got together with her publicist and her PR team, and it took her a few days, but she decided she was going to issue a public apology, which was so jumbled and full of crap. But we'll read you an excerpt. So Simone says, I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to. Well, why'd you open your mouth? Why did you open your mouth? But here we go. I believe it starts with empathy and respect. It's not what you showed Riley. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. So that was Simone's apology. That was her PR statement. She's trying to save face. I imagine she has brand deals and sponsorships and a whole team of people. She is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, Simone Biles. And I really don't think she was expecting the backlash. I think Simone thought, because she hangs out with a bunch of liberals, maybe she hangs out with a bunch of trans people, she thought, oh my God, this is going to help my career. I'm going to come out and everyone's going to love me because I'm clapping back at Riley. That's what she thought. If I'm Simone Biles, she's thinking, I'm going to clap back at this Riley Gaines girl and I'm going to be beloved, because she's that Fox girl. She's that conservative girl. Well, guess what? Fox, conservative, Republican, who gives a rat's ass. Riley Gaines is on the 80% of the 80-20 issue. You're in the minority on this one, Simone Biles. I honestly think it's like a 99-1 issue, but people are just scared to come out and say it because they don't want to be called transphobic. I have the balls to say it. I don't care. Men should not be in women's sports or women's locker rooms. So then Riley Gaines responded with class. Here's what Riley had to say. So she says, I accept Simone's apology for the personal attacks, including the ones where she body shamed me. I know she knows what this feels like. She's still the greatest female gymnast of all time. The boys are publicly humiliating the girls. To suggest that women and girls must be silent or ignore a boy who is publicly hurting or humiliating them is wrong. You can't have any empathy and compassion for the girls if you're ignoring when young men are harming or abusing them. I'm not ashamed to be a voice for the voiceless. Thank you, Riley Gaines. These men, because let's call it what it is, these men are coming into women's sports and they are trying to humiliate them. They are trying to usurp and infiltrate their spaces. There are young girls that are being told, you have to go stand up there next to a guy on a podium, even though you've worked your ass off. These girls, some of them get up at 4 a.m. every single day to train for their respective sport. And they're told at the last minute, you have to share everything with a man who came in and jumped into your category because they couldn't hack it in the men's category, because that's what these men do. You really don't hear a lot of stories. You don't hear almost any stories. I can't think of one where a woman goes and competes in the men's category, because guess what? That is not going to help you win. The men come and compete in the women's because they know they have an advantage, a physical advantage. Even Serena Williams, all these big athletes who are probably Democrats and liberals, they agree on this. There are biological differences between men and women. This is birds and the bees. Why am I having to explain this to you people? So Simone Biles, I don't know why she doesn't know this. It's remedial. Maybe she doesn't have much education because she's been in the gym 24/7 every single day, but there are differences between men and women. And I'm also happy to see more women speaking up across the country, right? I think these young girls, especially in high school now, they feel emboldened knowing we are in their corner. You're in their corner. The people watching and listening to this, I'm in their corner. Megyn Kelly's in their corner. There are loud voices like Riley Gaines who are in their corner saying, ladies, fight back. You don't need to go get up on a podium with some guy, some broad-shouldered dude with an Adam's apple the size of Alabama. You don't need to get on a podium with him. Walk off. Walk off. Don't compete. Raise freaking hell. And we're actually seeing in liberal cities now, the crowds are booing. They are booing when a man comes into a women's sports and takes a trophy. They're going, boo, boo. And I never thought I would see that in some of these deep blue cities. But people are fighting back. And I think the dads and the brothers and the boyfriends and the husbands, they're tired of seeing women's spaces infiltrated and erased. And something I would ask Simone Biles, and I hope Simone Biles and Riley Gaines sit down. I think it could be a really interesting conversation. Something I would want to ask her is, does she think it's okay for men to be in women's locker rooms now? Does she still think it's okay after the public backlash? And she's also someone who I imagine is pro-choice. Simone Biles, she is someone who considers herself a feminist icon. And the left, they're all about protecting and uplifting women, but I guess not women athletes. They want to protect women, but they're fine with men coming in at the last minute and taking everything these girls have worked for. And what's also embarrassing is that the leadership in Washington, D.C. on the Democrat side, Chris Murphy, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Tim Walz, they're all a bunch of beta males who don't want to defend women. They're perfectly fine with women being erased. And I know it sounds harsh, but you hate women. I think that's the new misogyny. The new misogyny is you're perfectly fine with a guy coming in and beating up on young girls in their sports teams. We've seen it with Peyton McNabb. We've seen it with countless other girls. They get hurt. They get injured. There are girls who don't get to make headlines and ones we will never hear about. But this is not okay. This is the new misogyny. This is like the reverse misogyny, actually. This is the misogyny of 2025, where they want men to come in and take everything these girls work for because they couldn't hack it in their own categories. So Simone Biles, you can express contrition all you want. You can apologize. I will never forgive you. I don't give a rat's ass really about who you are. I think Simone Biles is someone who's famous every 4 years and then probably not anymore. These Olympic athletes, they kind of phase out. They are incredible, superhuman. And then we have a new crop that comes in. And I think it's time for Simone Biles to go count her cash and let some new blood and some new meat come in and some new voices who understand the culture, because clearly she does not. So continuing on our theme of spiraling, because like I said, today's episode is all about people spiraling. Gavin Newsom, Simone Biles, Eva Longoria, everybody is spiraling. Well, Meghan Markle is also spiraling. Meghan Markle, she's back in the news because apparently she had some little tiff with actress Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields, she's been a famous actress for decades and decades and decades. I'm sure all of you know who Brooke Shields is. Well, she went on a podcast, which has since been deleted and taken down because I guess they didn't want the hate from Meghan Markle. They think Meghan Markle has some clout in Hollywood. On the podcast, one thing Brooke Shields spoke about was she was at an event with Meghan Markle, okay? They were sharing the stage. They were speaking at an event, allegedly, and Meghan Markle told this story. And if you know about Meghan Markle, you have heard this story. If you don't, I will give you a quick synopsis. Meghan Markle, when she was 11 years old, there is a commercial for dish soap, okay? A commercial for dish soap, and they had women washing dishes, and in the commercial, they said something like, moms across the country or women across the country are using X, Y, and Z product. Well, Meghan Markle, being the little feminist she was, she decided to write a letter to the company. So she wrote a letter to the company, and she said, women aren't the only ones who wash dishes. Women, they aren't the only ones in the kitchen. Okay, so they changed the commercial for this little girl to people across the country, Americans, folks across the country, you name it. They changed it to something that was neutral and gender ambiguous. Okay, that's what they did. So then Meghan Markle, for her entire life, for 35, 40 years, however the hell old she is, because I think she lies about her age, in my opinion, we have heard about this story. We have heard about her writing in to this damn commercial when she was 11 years old. This is her one accomplishment. Meghan Markle has so few accomplishments in life. We are still hearing about this commercial where she wrote in at 11 years old and got them to change it. So that was her big deal. We're still hearing about it. So she apparently was at an event and she kept telling the story about being 11 years old. And Brooke Shields apparently chimed in and said, well, when I was 11 years old, I was playing a prostitute. So Brooke Shields chimes in and she tells some story to try and cut the tension because the audience is bored. And she goes, well, when I was 11 years old, I was acting and doing this and playing a hooker. Something along those lines. Apparently, Meghan Markle didn't like it. Because Meghan Markle has no sense of humor. She cannot be self-deprecating. There's no one who takes themselves more seriously than Meghan Markle. She is such a narcissist that she can't even see the forest for the trees and laugh at her own life story and laugh at the insanity and absurdity of the fact that we're still hearing about this letter she wrote when she was 11 years old. So that's who Meghan Markle is. So Brooke Shields, she told this story about cutting the tension, and she said Meghan Markle was being too precious. She said Meghan Markle is too precious. She was laughing on this podcast with another woman. Apparently, the little Meghan Markle brigade, the Sussex squad, they decided to come after Brooke Shields, and she took the podcast down. Brooke Shields, I want you to know, we stand with you. We are tired of hearing about this story from when she was 11 years old. I can't even remember what I was doing when I was 11 years old, so I question Meghan Markle on all of this, but this is her one accomplishment. She got them to change this commercial. So I hope Brooke Shields and Meghan Markle can patch things up. But another thing Meghan Markle is doing, she's apparently going into the hospitality business. According to reporting in The Sun, Meghan Markle is filing trademarks for hospitality services under her brand as ever. So Meghan Markle, apparently she wants to go into hotels, bed and breakfast. I don't know what the hell she is doing. Meghan Markle is so delusional. If you remember on her show, she would put together, bouquets of flowers for guests coming to stay at her house, for her hair and makeup person who came to stay the night. I guess she thinks that means she should be in the hospitality business. She didn't seem very hospitable when she was shanking the royal family and accusing them of racism. That was not very hospitable, Meghan Markle. So we have a quote here. So hospitality services generally covers a broad category of offerings related to providing accommodations, food, and experiences, essentially the service side of the hotel, restaurant, and tourism industry. So Meghan Markle, maybe she's going to become a travel agent. Maybe Meghan Markle is going to become a travel agent. I don't know what the hell she's doing in the hospitality service. Also, Meghan Markle is lazy. Meghan Markle is one of the laziest women on earth. She does not want to work. She doesn't even want to restock her brand until 2026, and all she sells are what? Jams, jellies, and dog biscuits? That's it? So Meghan Markle now wants to go into the hospitality service. I guess she thinks that putting together some dishes when her friends come over and putting together bouquets of flowers on her multi-million-dollar estate makes her equipped for the hospitality service. I would love to ask those of you who are in the hospitality service, if you work at a hotel, if you work at a restaurant, if you have friends and family who are in the hospitality business, do you think Meghan Markle is cut out for that business? Do you think Meghan Markle is cut out to be running and working a hotel, a bed and breakfast? I would love to see that. I would love to see that, Meghan Markle. We wish you well in that endeavor. But Meghan Markle, she just continues this descent. I don't know if she's losing it. I don't know if her mind is going. I think it's also desperation. I think when you're used to having a certain volume of press and fame and it starts to fade, it really can mess with you. You've seen this with celebrities many, many times. The second they start to come down from their peak, their apex of fame, is when the wheels start to come off. And Meghan Markle, we saw that with that ridiculous, bizarre, sick pregnancy video. The video to me was sick, the pregnancy video. It made me violently ill watching her dance around with her baby bump in a hospital room. She was doing a little two-step and a squat, and we've seen the video all over the internet. But this pregnancy video was so gross to me. It was just someone who is socially inept. It was odd. It was just such a depth of desperation at this point for fame and likes and clicks. This is someone who basically said that they want privacy. They don't want people looking into them. They didn't want to do royal engagements. They wanted to be paid for royal engagements, allegedly. So now Meghan Markle is posting this pregnancy video. And I also am someone who's not conspiratorial at all. A lot of my friends are conspiratorial. I am not. And there have been a bunch of rumors for years about Meghan Markle, and maybe she feigned her pregnancy. Maybe she had a surrogate. Maybe her kids aren't really in line for the throne. Maybe they're not in line for succession because the kids weren't born of her body, right? The folks in the UK, we might have someone on next week to discuss this. They debate this often. I never believed it. I never really followed it. I never said, oh, I don't know. Was she really pregnant? Was she not? The amount of women who've come out and said, the last thing we want to do when we're about to give birth is to dance and twerk around the delivery room. The last thing that would even come to our minds, and something to me looks sketchy about the baby bump. The baby bump looks weird. It looks like a huge pillow. It looks like a massive throw pillow. So I don't know what she's doing. The whole thing is bizarre. The video is bizarre. And Meghan Markle is continuing the spiral into desperation. And as we talked about a few episodes ago, she might go into business with Lilibet, her daughter, who I believe is 4 years old, just turned 4 years old. She might go into business with her. She says she could see herself building a business with her daughter. So like the Kardashians, she's going to start whoring out her kids, right? Kim Kardashian, Kourtney Kardashian, Khloe, they all said, we're never going to put our kids on social media. We're never going to put our kids on the show. Now we constantly see the kids. All we see are the children constantly. Northwest is on the internet every single day posting herself. So I just am not going to be shocked if Meghan Markle continues to push the kids kids out there, continues to push this content because she needs that fame and she needs that attention. And she also has season 2 of her Netflix show coming up, right? She has season 2, which pretty much was pre-filmed from what we heard. They pre-filmed and they're just using some leftover footage. So Meghan Markle, she has reasons to be desperate. I think her clout and her cachet are down, and she now has to do these things. And the last thing I'll mention is there are some pictures recently Meghan Markle put out at Disney World or Disneyland. Those have been hotly contested, but we see her every single day now posting more videos and pictures of the children. And these are children she said she didn't want to be, part of the royal family because of their privacy concerns. And Harry's saying he couldn't even take his kids to the UK because of security, but then he was going around and ringing random doorbells and looking like a lost buffoon. So Meghan Markle, she's sick to me. She looks sick. She's acting sick. There's something really, really wrong, in my opinion, with this woman, and she continues spiraling, and it's going to get worse. Mark my words, we will be sitting here in 6 months and a year, and Meghan Markle will have posted many more pictures of the kids, many more videos of the kids. I won't be shocked if she's cooking with Lilibet in season 2 of the Netflix show. I won't be shocked if they do another documentary and they show off the kids. That is sort of their last hurrah for fame and fortune, is to use these children. That is Meghan Markle's last thing she has to offer, because they've been away from the royal family since the beginning of 2020. We're on 5.5 years here since they left the royal family, and the kids are their last chance to get that fame and that volume and velocity of press that they desire so desperately, because Meghan Markle is a narcissist and she needs constant fame, press, attention, and adulation. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. While on a road trip, Leo came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued that Doberman and named him Delta. Sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help, which inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, and a home. This dedication and everlasting love to animals is Leo's mission and legacy. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions from people like us. And if you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner, because they are tax-saving estate planning benefits too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with an advisor. We call a dog man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. So please visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Well, now it's time for a President Trump update. President Trump is a very busy man. I can barely keep up with what he's doing every single day. He is running around like the Energizer Bunny, which is a sharp contrast to what we had the last few years, a stark contrast, if you will. So President Trump, Wednesday night, tonight, depending when you're listening to this, he is going to attend Les Miserables. He is going to see Les Mis, the iconic musical at the Kennedy Center, and I could not be more envious and jealous. As a recovering theater kid, I want to go see Les Mis too. I want to go see Eponine and Cosette and Jean Valjean. I dreamed a dream of Jean. We can't afford the copyright. But President Trump is going with Vice President J.D. Vance. Usha Vance, the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, will be in attendance as well. I can't wait to see what she wears. I can't wait to see what Melania wears to go see Les Mis. I can't wait to see what Usha Vance wears. I can't wait to see them out a night on the town at the new Kennedy Center. And I was in DC a few days ago. I went to this rooftop party at the Swedish embassy. Ooh, I'm fancy. So I went to this rooftop party and you could see the Kennedy Center. It was lit up red, white, and blue. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. I could not be happier with what Rick Grinnell is doing with the Kennedy Center and the lineup of shows. I have tickets to many upcoming shows because I want to go and enjoy it. I want to support the arts, and the fine arts are such an outlet for young people in this country. And to have a president who prioritizes the fine arts and loves the fine arts is something I will always support. So they're going to see Les Mis. They're going to have a night on the town. President Trump is going to be out. Maybe he'll be wearing a tuxedo. We don't know what the man's going to be wearing, but he's going to see Les Mis. But there's an issue. There's an issue here with Les Mis. We were doing some research. Apparently, some of the performers don't want to perform for President Trump. They say, you know what? We're Democrats. We don't like Trump. We have Trump derangement syndrome. Many of the principal performers have said they're not going to perform tonight when President Trump goes to the Kennedy Center. I think that's a mistake. I think you should put partisan politics aside, because someday you're going to want to tell your kids, I performed for the freaking president at the Kennedy Center. Who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to tell their kids someday that you performed for the president and vice president of the United States of America? But President Trump, no matter what, whether they're understudies, whether they got the B team, the filler. He's going to have a great time because President Trump loves theater. And something that's coming to my mind right now, if you followed President Trump for years, he tells this story about Andrew Lloyd Webber and the Phantom of the Opera and being invited back in the day in New York City to go see Phantom of the Opera. And he tells this story about how much he loved it and the chandelier and how he was friends with Andrew Lloyd Webber. So President Trump, he loves theater. He's a New York guy. He loves the pomp and the circumstance and the theatricality of everything. And so I'm excited to see President Trump go watch Les Mis, but I'm also a little bit jealous. Now, before we move on to this next topic, I have to say, we reached out to the touring company networks. We asked them about the situation with the performers. They did not want to give any comment. They did not respond to a request for comment. But as we've seen with credible reporting, there are major performers who don't want to participate tonight while President Trump is attending. I think that personally is a mistake in my opinion, but live your life. It's a free country. Do what you want. Now, continuing with our Trump update, President Trump was also at Fort Bragg, commemorating the 250th year of the U.S. Army. We have a clip. You guys are going to want to watch this. Let's roll it and then discuss.
We honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies. There's never been anything like it. There's never been a force like this. And I rebuilt it. I gave you so much money for 4 years. It was crazy. And we just approved our largest budget for military operations, over $1 trillion. We've never even come close.
The energy was electric. You could feel it through the computer screen, just watching and listening to it. The energy was palpable. These folks love America and they know that President Trump loves them. Unlike Joe Biden, right, who checked his watch as soldiers were coming home in caskets. Unlike Joe Biden, who oversaw the horrific, calamitous Afghanistan withdrawal, which is a stain on our nation and our nation's history, President Trump respects our military. He respects our men in uniform. He backs the blue. That is who President Trump is. And so to see him at Fort Bragg with these young men and women, just the energy was incredible. And when he hit the dance, when he hit the YMCA, the crowd went nuts. The crowd went crazy, okay? They were loving it. I loved watching it. I love seeing it. I love that he supports our troops. And I'm grateful for the people who've made sacrifices for us to sit here and do what we do and have the First Amendment in this country and the Second Amendment and the United States Constitution. I would not want to live anywhere else but the United States. And it's because of the sacrifice of soldiers President Trump cares about. Something else President Trump announced while he was speaking at Fort Bragg is he wants to reinstate the name of these military installations that were changed the last few years, right? He wants to bring back Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk. I want to visit Fort Polk. Sounds like a good time. Fort Hill, Fort Robert E. Lee. We have a clip of this. Let's take a look and then talk.
For a little breaking news, we are also going to be restoring the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee.
I am so happy about this because I am tired of capitulating to these folks on the left who are never happy. Can't we just honor our history? Can't we just have the names be names? Are you such little pansies and crybabies? You can't handle Fort Robert E. Lee or Fort Pickett or Fort Hood or Fort Polk, which, like I said, I'd like to visit Fort Polk. Sounds like a good time. You can't handle it. So these little crybaby bitches on the left, they want to change the names of all of these military bases. I'm glad President Trump is restoring common sense and sanity. We don't have to do this ridiculousness. We shouldn't have to bend over backwards doing cartwheels for these people who are never happy anyway. So let's put the names back. Fort Robert E. Lee. Am I going to get struck by lightning for saying it out loud? No. But thank you, President Trump, for prioritizing our men in uniform. Thank you for going and speaking to them. I feel like showing up is 90% of the job. When you show up and you show that you care, it makes folks want to enlist. Makes recruitment easier and makes people want to serve and be a part of this great nation, the United States of America. So thank you, President Trump, for showing up. And the last thing I will say is this. I am very jealous of President Trump's team, and I'll tell you why. Every time they go to an event, whether it's Fort Bragg, whether it's the UFC fights, they are surrounded by hot, young men. Okay, President Trump's team, they go to Fort Bragg. The crowd is like thousands of ripped, young, strapping men cheering, full of masculinity and testosterone. They go to the UFC fights. There are shirtless, ripped men fighting in cages like gladiators. I would love to go to these events. I am very jealous. I don't feel bad for y'all. I know you're running on fumes and no sleep. I have no mercy and no sympathy for you because every event Trump goes to, they're hot men in uniform or they're hot guys in cages fighting at Dana White's UFC. I'm jealous. And then President Trump gets to go see Les Mis and go see a musical tonight. I am a little bit jealous. Okay, I'm a little bit envious of the hot men at every event, the musicals. He's got a parade coming up this weekend. This man is living his best life. President Trump is living his best life, and I am living here working for all of you. So I have to say thank you for tuning in to Spot On with Link-Lauren. I know we ran the gamut today. Gavin Newsom, he's letting LA burn. His wife's out shopping for luxury goods. Ooh, la-di-da-di-da. That is what is going on. Simone Biles, she's apologizing. She's expressing contrition, but she's still a dumbass. Simone Biles, you're literally a bird brain fool, and I hope we never have to hear from you.